Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Islamic Finance, show where we are discussing about Islamic perspective on wealth and money. In our previous episode we started talking a little bit about Riba, and inshallah today we are going to cover this very important prohibition in muamalat in general. Have you ever thought about Riba before? Have you ever thought about why it is such a big thing? Like, have you ever tried to understand maybe, when you talk about Riba, why it is that this sort of sin, when you mismanage money, is equal to the war with Allah?
Because it's like kind of an impression when you're oppressing people, so obviously, we're not put on this earth to harm people and oppress people. And when you deal with riba with people, you're actually oppressing someone, so it's like you're hurting another person, and this is something that Allah doesn't like.
So it looks like when you talk about this subject, most of the people are unaware. How can something like supposedly simple, like not managing money or exchanging in different ways, how can it really be that bad? Can it be really that bad? Like so much injustice associated with these things. So inshallah we're going to cover to see how this type of transaction result in such a negative consequences, and we'll see some of the wisdom behind the prohibitions. So last time, if you remember, we talked about riba meaning in a literal sense, meaning increase, in Sharia sense meaning unlawful increase. Now we said usually in English this word is translated sometimes as interest and sometimes as usury. Now in a bank we normally see when they talk about interest rates, they never say we have special 5% usury rate. Now we said, why is it that all of the financial institutions prefer this word interest? And is there a difference? In fact, when you read English translation of Quran, which word is mainly used?
Interest.
Mainly usury. All right? Now we ask, are these two words the same? Do they mean the same? Is that correct translation of the word riba? Okay? Now, to understand, you have to go back in time. Obviously, this is not Arabic words, these are English words. So when you go back in time, like during the time when Christians also made riba prohibited, in fact, as you will see, it was one of the key top sins. Person who practiced would find himself excommunicated from the whole religion of Christianity for practicing something like this. We have seen some of these business people develop two sets of rules. So what they said is, in order to avoid the issue of riba, they planted in the mind of a church and other people idea that if you charge a little bit of interest, what they call reasonable, little bit of interest, then that is fine. That is actually helping someone. If you charge a lot, then that is kind of an oppression. So what they did, they separated riba in two, like halal riba and haram riba, So this halal riba, according to them, is what they called interest. So this is okay riba, we are okay with this. However, this exorbitant amount of riba is what they say usury. Now in Islam we don't make the difference. Any increase is riba. Doesn't matter 1 cent or 100,000 cents, doesn't make any difference. So when they did that, basically they put some number, how much is that extra for usury, and this kept worrying. So for instance, now in many of the countries you still have usury laws, but they are sometimes maybe 50, 20%, 70%, whatever. This keeps changing, okay? So to correct, if you say riba is usury, you are not defining it correctly, okay? So you are going according to this mindset. It's only usury is something that is high in increasing. So better choice is interest, because interest includes usury. Usury does not include interest. Okay, so if I were to pick correct, it would be interest. both of them, but problem is with usury, it does not include small amount. Okay, so that's why translation, that will be incorrect understanding. All right? So that's just on the side note. Now let's see Islamic view on the riba. So in the translation of the meaning of the Holy Quran, we have this verse. Anybody can read us?
Those who consume interest cannot stand on the day of resurrection, except as one stands who is being beaten by Satan into insanity. This is because they say trade is just like interest, but Allah has permitted trade and has forbidden interest. Quran chapter 2 verse 275.
Okay, so what do we see? Do we see anything? What is interesting about this verse? Like, is there something for you interesting that you are seeing? What is something that strikes you in this verse?
One of the striking facts is that they try to compare it to transaction. They try to compare it to normal or daily. They try to make it like, what is this? There's no difference.
Right. So what are they comparing? They're comparing
trade to
trade
to interest. To riba.
Okay. Okay. So they are trying to compare. All right. Now, do they say these things are same?
They say it's similar.
Mithlu, yeah.
There's a similarity.
Similarity. So even these people who are arguing these points, they don't say riba and trade is the same thing. It's similar. Okay? So if you read Ibn Kathir's explanation of this verse, what he's talking is that these people are rebelling against the order for a prohibition of interest. So they are trying to rebel, and they are making this so-called logical argument. Well, you have an increase when you're trading, when you're doing business, you sell stuff. You sell it for the profit. How come then, when I want to sell money for the profit, I can't make the same profit? So they say, we see it similar. We know it's not the same, but close enough to be, if it is close enough, then why Allah made this haram, this halal? Okay, and what we see from these people for saying these things, for rebelling, what's going to happen with them on the day of judgment?
They will come.
They will come like one being beaten by shaitan into insanity. So what did they do? Just they say these two things similar, in rebelling fashion, okay, against the order. So something seemingly very small, such a huge consequence. Now, where did they go wrong? So, for example, we said when you trade, let's say I have a car, okay. So I buy this car for 10, yeah, and then I sell it for 12. All right, I sell it for how much did I make?
2,000.
Yeah, I make 2. Okay, so that's like we will say I made 20% profit. Yeah,
Yes.
I made 20% profit from selling the car. Now, if I take the money directly, 10, and sell it for 12, I made the same 20%. Yeah? So what is the difference between this and this? We said this was purely money for money transaction, purely. And this was a sale, trade. So although they are looking from the point of view that both of these are making profit, that's why we said in the beginning, riba is type of increase that is not lawful. So that when we say increase that is not lawful, that means there are increases that are
Lawful.
permissible, lawful. Otherwise, how do you generate profit? How do you earn to sustain yourself? We said working to the level where you can sustain yourself and those in your care is a must. So if you're not making increase and a profit from trade, how are you going to do it? So only other way is this, which is not lawful. All right, so when they are looking at these things, they are looking at very, very superficial. And the Quran answered that Allah has permitted trade. So why is it that this is halal, this is haram? Well, simple. Allah permitted one, He made one haram. Now, you want to follow the wisdom and all of this, try to figure out, go ahead. But we understand that it is haram because we see it's made haram. Okay? Wisdom and all of these things, we can think about it later. Okay? And we will, inshallah, try to analyze and see if we can see any and any wisdom in what we can see as a human. Okay, few more interpretation, translation of the verses. Anybody can read this one?
O you who have believed, fear Allah and give up what remains due to you of interest if you should be believers. And if you do not, then be informed of war against you from Allah and His Messenger. But if you repent, you may have your principle. Thus you do no wrong, nor are you wrong. Quran 2 verses 2, 7, 8
So,
and 9.
so what do we see here? What we see here as we know from explanation of this word, war against Allah and His Messenger on the Day of Judgment, that will translate in you being given weapon and say, okay, now you want to fight Allah? Fight now. And who can do that? Who can do that? But very importantly, this war is not only type of war on the Day of Judgment. It is manifested today. We see so much trouble, people having depression, anxiety, stress. If you see psychologists now talk, the level of depression due to this financial crisis is breaking the all limit. So this is being waged on hearts, minds, on everything. So we see that level of anxiety in the society. So this is only type of a sin where you wage war against Allah and His Prophet. So this puts the issue of riba at very serious level.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if a car is a product, and can we take money as a product also, and make and take profit for trading it?
So what we were saying before, difference between trade is when money is used to buy something, some product, so asset. So money becomes something else. Okay. Now, as a result, when you transfer money into some asset, you are allowed to profit from sale of this asset. Okay, whatever that is, that could be a service, that could be asset, anything. What happens in real life as a result of this trade? Somebody actually gets the car. Whoever manufactured the car, they get to sell the car. Whoever bought the car, they get to drive the car. You know, whoever is supplying the manufacturer with parts get something done. You know, somebody making tires, somebody making glass, somebody making aluminium. There is a mine that brings metal. There is a plastic guy who brings plastic parts. There is a rubber. There is a petrol involved. How many things happened in real life as a result of this? So many thousands of people, factories, suppliers do get reward in this.
Now, what they're working for.
So there is a real economic activity as a result. Now, what happens here with all of those people when I do this?
No economic activity at all.
There is no economic activity. Nothing happens as a result of this transaction. I just give you money and that's the end. Now, should you make a profit from something that is not related to economic activity? And that's where we see small difference in the minds of these people who were saying, but isn't this similar? Sure, it's similar in your narrow-minded way of looking at things, you know. But when you want to really analyze, this is economy, this is a real thing, this is a fiction. So as a result of this, we have a cycle when people start doing this, money keeps growing, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. So we don't want to end up in a situation like we have now, where the debts are so huge and economy is shrinking. Okay. In fact, this is one of the in Jahiliyyah, people used to sell these things on a credit. Okay, and this is where some of the Shiu talk about this example, what is similar to this. And riba of Jahiliyyah used to be when somebody sell something on a credit. So I give you this for $10. Okay, I give you. You owe me 12, okay? So I bought it for 10, I want to make some profit, I sell you for higher,
12, okay.
but you give me in 1 year. Now, Riba of Jahiliyyah was when 12 months passed, I would come and you don't have money to give me, okay? So I say, okay, now that was 12, now I will increase it for another period for 14. Now what's the difference here? In the first case, I sold you some asset, okay? In the second one, I have a debt from you. It is like a money, okay? Now I can't increase that debt. I can't increase that. That become like here. So what these people were in effect saying, how come in the first case when you sell asset you can increase, but when it comes day to repay debt, you don't allow another increase? Well, because in the second case it's a debt, it's a money. If I increase on money, then again I'm here.
Okay.
All right. This is what we refer before as riba of Jahiliyyah. Okay? So, inshallah, after the break, we are going to continue discussing the topic of riba.
Allah mentions Arabic words in Quran 11 times. This might be a sign for us to know the importance of studying Quran and studying Arabic language, because it's the door to know more about Quran. Ubay ibn Ka'b, one of the most important Sahabas, advised the Sahaba, telling them, teach your children Arabic like you teach them to memorize Quran. See how important it was. And they are Arabs. Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, said, learn Arabic because it is part of your religion. Arabic is part of our religion. So how are we going to study Arabic and learn Arabic together in this course? This basic Arabic course contains 7 levels, starting with the 0 level, the ground level. Each level contains 13 sessions, 45 minutes each, and we have 2 quizzes in each course, and we have the final exam. So inshallah, by this, our objectives is to have a very good domain of the Arabic language, especially when it comes to reading Islamic books. So we're going to be introducing Islamic vocab throughout the course. So go ahead, please, and enroll in our basic Arabic course, as Arabic is the official language of more than 20 countries, and Arabic is the key and the door of all Islamic sciences. So please do enter this door from the correct way, Arabic language.
Huda Academy, your gateway to authentic Islamic knowledge.
Welcome back. We are talking about prohibition of riba. So just before the break, we were discussing about the difference between profiting from the trade, buying and selling something, or profiting from money, selling of money. And of course, we said that whether it's money that you have or a debt, it's the same thing. You see, debt is just money that is coming, while the cash is something that sits in your pocket now. But the same rule applies. You cannot sell whether it's money or a debt for some other amount of money. All right? So we will see how this issue plays out. Now, regarding of the issue of riba, usually people say, but you know, I'm just paying to the bank home loan. You know, I'm just paying, I'm not taking riba, I'm just giving, or I'm just writing the contract or something like that. So people have different excuse. They think riba only apply to the bank that gives you a credit card, gives you a home loan, these sorts of things, right? Now, who can read us this narration from Sahih Muslim?
Narrated by the Prophet's companion Jabir, Allah's Messenger cursed the one who accepts riba, the one who gives it, the one who records it, and the 2 witnesses to it, saying they're all the same. Narrated from Muslim. Although the major sins.
Let me just stop for a second on this one. So what does this mean? What does this mean? What do we learn from this?
That basically everyone involved in the transaction, whether he's even just looking at it or watching it take place, is a sinner, and he's cursed.
So number one, who are the people who are cursed because of the riba? Number one,
Accepts
The
riba.
one-
The one who accepts
accepts
riba.
it.
the one who accepts this
Yeah.
riba.
Mhm.
Then the one who gives it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the one who records it, and the witnesses.
Yeah.
All right, question.
Mm.
Accountant, would he come under this?
The accountant, because he's a he is a witness towards it and he is recording it.
Right?
So basically, he's also involved in it.
All right. Maybe. What do you think? You all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what is this talking about? Who are these four parties here? What is their job?
The one is the person. The one is the transaction taking place between the two.
Two, and then he recording, then
And then-
witnessing, and
and the
all.
witnessing.
All right. What sort of witnessing are we talking about? Recording. When is this happening? At which point in time is this happening?
For example, on an agreement.
At the time when we signing, when the time when we are giving rise to riba. So somebody comes to the bank, okay, he signs it. So whoever facilitates this process is included in this. Okay. So accountant, for example. Accountant, you are, let's say somebody is accountant, and person come to him and said, make me the accounting tax return for the, and he says, okay, you have this much there, this and that. This is not this kind of witnessing. Okay? This is recording it. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Marriage. Do you need a witness for marriage?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Now, let's say this couple, husband and wife, are walking. Now, I see them. Am I witnessing them?
No, they just.
I am witnessing
You are
them.
witnessing
I'm
them.
seeing them.
Yes.
But am I that kind of a witness
No.
who is legally required for marriage to be valid?
No.
I'm not. So anybody who gives validity to the riba, who help facilitates it, comes under this category. Those people who accidentally or part of the audit, they see it or something like that, this is come under different category. Okay, so this was explained by Sheikh Taqi Usmani on his website, who is leading authority in this particular field of finance, and he has a nice explanation about this differentiation, because it is important to understand. So anybody who give legal legs for this contract to stand, like this party, without any of these party, it's impossible to have a contract. Now, accountant can witness or not, he's not making riba or facilitating it. He is just somebody who is recording it. All right? And that is a different set of story. But they would not come under this. However, this gives us insight into the, if person did not take, there would be no riba. So he is as guilty as the one who is giving. And if person didn't write or witness it, again, there would be no contract. So it is not enough excuse that someone says, okay, but I'm just working in a bank as somebody who writes. This is an institution that core job is related to this. So as scholars used to say, even if you are just cleaning it, you come into this ruling, that you are supporting something that gives birth to riba. Okay, so it's very important. And we know that the riba is one of the 7 destroying sins. Okay? All right, there is interesting another narration. Who can read us this?
Sure. One night the Prophet related from a dream, a man in a river of blood and another standing on the bank of the river. He said, the man in the middle of the river tried to come out, but the other threw a stone in his mouth and forced him back into his original place. So whenever he tried to come out, the other man would throw a stone in his mouth and would force him to go back into his former place. I asked, who is this? I was told the person in the river was a riba eater. Bukhari.
Look at this description. He's drowning in the river, and somebody smashing him with the stones in the mouth, smashing him in the stones. What a description! What war this description? I mean, what worse? What more do you want to hear? Now, what is interesting is that previous nations were also forbidden from taking riba. Okay, if you go even in the history, Shakespeare, you know Shakespeare?
Yes.
Very famous writer. He wrote a book called Merchant of Venice. Have you ever heard of that book?
Yes.
Yeah, Merchant of Venice. What's it about? Remember?
It's,
Can you remember? It is about Europe during his time, when Christians used to bring Jews in Europe amongst them to deal in riba. That time, Christians were prohibited, church prohibited interest. However, what they used to do to avoid is they would bring these Jews who, according to their interpretation, they couldn't do riba between themselves, but Jew to the Christian could do riba. Okay, so they would bring this person, Shylock, who would give interest to these Christians. Now, this Christian society used to hate these people, not because they are Jews or, as some people claim, anti-Semitic, but because of these action of money lending. Okay, these people, Christians, would used to hate them. And this is a book, it's like a window in that society, how much this riba was hated. And these bankers of the time were hated. However, there were some necessities and things that were happening in the background where they would make a use of these things. So he's writing a book about this money lender who, if you cannot repay riba, he would take pound of your flesh. So it does very ugly description in Europe. Where did these people get? So if you go to the Old and New Testament, you will find so many of these references where it says, do not be like a money lender, charge him no interest, and so on. Even in the Old Testament, the word ribit was used. I mean, how much more clear you want to get? The word ribit. It is obviously what we are talking about. And in Europe, in the 12th century, Pope Alexander III used to excommunicate usurers. You know, excommunicate, takfir. No more, finish, you are no more. That's it, you are into usury, you are done. And in 1317, the Council of Vienna also excommunicated these people. So what happened? How did we end up, Europe, all of these Western nations, that they're so free with riba? Well, how did they do it? Remember what we said, they separated usury from interest. Halal and haram. So they made themselves permissible something. Okay? Look at this particular statement in the Bible, Matthew 12:13. Who can read us this? Yep.
And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers.
Just look at that statement. Just stop there for a second. He overthrew the tables. So Jesus, peace be upon him, is going into the mosque, or what they call temple, and he's looking what's happening with these people. What are these people doing? And he taking tables, he kicking them out. Get lost. As some would say, he's enforcing Sharia. Isn't he supposed to be loving, nice, and peace and everything? But we see here, he's taking this stand against these people, which some would think, what is going on? Is this really, like, are you playing some games? What's going on? And if you go to see what happened here, you find that these people used to come from Europe and other places to make pilgrimage, like Hajj. And their coins were silver shekel coins, you know. So at that time, pagan Europe and all of these other places, they would have these symbols of pagan gods and things like that. So these Muslims, of course, they're Muslims, when they come to pay tax, they didn't want to pay tax using pagan money. So they come to these people and say, can you just swap my silver for your silver? Silver for silver. So these people knew that they have upper hand now. Okay, you need me. So they started charging a lot more for changing silver for silver. And this is what you will see later. We will discuss this riba al-fadl, unequal amounts and so on. So they were taking advantage. And what it says here, you have made this den of thieves. So he threw them out. So what would he do with now Wall Street bankers? If you see what...
topple them over.
You know, many people think capitalism, Christianity, it's like, you know, because this is a media kind of project, or like if Jesus here, he would, you know, like embrace capitalism or something. SubhanAllah, this is completely false understanding. This he would refuse, as some of the even Christians say, he would refuse to be part of a system, and we see here why. Okay, so that is very interesting. Now we see, even with all the attacks from Vatican and challenges that we see all the time and things, during the financial crisis, their official newspaper was quoted as saying, statement from Vatican, that says these ethical principles on which Islamic finance is based may bring bank closer to their clients and to the true spirit which should mark every financial transactions. Okay, so if this is true, why you are not doing it yourself? You know, you have a huge bank, everybody else there. How come only we are fighting this evil in society? You know, I was once having the lecture at university, one of the universities, and while I was waiting there, we had one night had to sleep in apartments. So I was sharing room with very, very old Christian professor. Actually, he started one of the university in 70s. So imagine how old is he? And while we sit together, he asked me, what you do? And I say, I teach Islamic finance. And he says, oh, really? He says, I'm working now on Christian economic book. I say, wow, let's sit. Let's make a tea and talk. You know, I'm you know, never seen a Christian who is really like trying something. And I said, we started discussing. And what was clear to me is that they surrendered themselves to the economists. They can't seem to make an argument because they don't know even how to explain this particular words. What is the problem with this? What is this? You know, they know usury, they're mixing it up. And, you know, there are some verses, for example, I was recently reading from the Bible, somebody sent me the link, and you compare one verse in 16 different versions of the Bible. And it says, do not charge him interest on money and interest on food. For example, they don't know what it means. They can't explain it. And we will see later that interest is not only on monetary asset, it's also referred to certain commodities and how they are exchanged. So we are very, very fortunate, blessed, that Allah gave us the rules that are very deep. We can clearly have types of riba, where they relate. And you will see that, unlike some other people, we can take economists or anybody heads on. We can take them directly on a challenge and discuss these things with full confidence in what we are talking about. Okay, so inshallah, after the break, we are going to continue this interesting discussion about riba.
Welcome to a new edition of your program Gardens of the Pious, in the series of explaining the marvelous collection of Riyadh al-Salihin by Imam al-Nawawi. May Allah have mercy on him. The Prophet ﷺ said, the reward for the salah which is offered by a person in jama'ah, in congregation, is more than 20 times greater than of the same salah performed in one's house. I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship,
there is no God worthy of worship
but Allah alone. And I bear witness that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was his last messenger. Nights, may Allah make every moment that we live in this life a happy moment for His sake and worship.
Welcome back. We are talking about riba and historical prohibition of this very evil evil practice. Now, just before the break, we were discussing how previous nations were also prohibited from practicing riba. In fact, if you go throughout the history, even those philosophers who were just relying on their own reason, like for example Aristotle, used to say that this is the type of earning that is the worst type of earning. However, we have, unfortunately, amongst us Muslims, after all of this history and everything, some of these philosophers who try to do what Christians did with their riba, and that is to make it halal by separating it, arguing, you know, if it is for this, if it is commercial loan, then it is fine, it is not oppression. If it is for this, then it is. I mean, all of these logic, all of these use to go against clear prohibition. And so when we look at even those people of the Jahiliyyah, forget all of these, look at the people of the Jahiliyyah. You know the story when they were rebuilding Kaaba, what happened? You remember? You remember that one of the sides was lower. They did not have money to finish and build Kaaba properly. Why is that?
Because it was used in all halal, and they were using all money which was cleansed, purified money.
So imagine, these people knew that we can't use riba money and haram money to build this holy place. So they knew what is riba, what is not, what is halal. Yet today we have some Muslims who are worse than these people. Yet we call these people people of Jahiliyyah. And these are thinkers, or what they call them, think tank philosophers and whatever. So this is amazing. This is amazing. This just shows how low we sink in our understanding, you know, of reality. So, all right. So let's look at a couple of some of the wisdom that scholars, when they analyze reasons, see behind the prohibition of the riba. So some of the wisdom. So number one, it goes against mutual cooperation, generosity, and spirit of partnership. If you go to any culture, recently I was listening very interesting discussion about Venice, you know, and it was talking about from Venice to Spain to all of these countries in the past, when they were having trade and participation and sharing of wealth with the people who could do trade. So they were mixing people, and the wealthy would give them money to do the trade, and there was a partnership, and the Venice and all of these cities were growing exponentially. I say, even when I look at these, this is what we call musharaka, you know. I say, they have a name, you know. I said, subhanAllah, look, entire civilization transformed because those people with money were giving that money to those entrepreneurs who were doing the trade, and you see the name, unknown people surface becoming part of the wealthy elite, you know, and so on, until the time when they say, we don't want this anymore. We're going to now just give money as a loans. They stopped that progress of the society. They wanted to limit how many people come into the elite. Became like a club. And what they wanted to do is extract work and everything from people, but not sharing fully rewards. Because when you're a partner, I will work more if I have more incentive to get reward, yes? So my talent, my energy, my everything will come into fruit more. So this is what we see sometimes even today, venture capitalism, okay, or these seed investment, angel investment, what they call. Most of these, let's look at the tech companies. They started because somebody gave some seed money, and then whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Google, or whatever idea, and the money and everything became huge force. Forget what is sometimes projected on these websites. But look at how much revenue this is generating, jobs, billions of people benefit, you know, and so on. Now, how does that come? Even until today, this is mainly financed through these sort of partnership-based profit and loss schemes. So when you have a riba that is purely that instrument, it goes against this growth. You know, and if we want to have a growth in our countries or around the world, where youth can participate, idea can be developed, we need to be able to bring youth with energy and ideas and also money plus experience of the other people and mix this for a mutual benefit. So some of these people who are maybe rich, they have maybe some wisdom, they can share it and use the energy and ideas of youth. Okay? Example, recently I was looking at some example. Most of you know YouTube.
Yes.
Okay? Now, we know there is heaps of rubbish on YouTube. Forget that for a side. Just look at it from a business, how this thing happens. You know that who bought YouTube? Remember?
Google.
Google. How much they paid?
Billions.
Yeah, about between 1 and 2 billion. I can't remember now. Maybe 1.5. Let's round it. You know, what's a couple hundred million? You know, let's round it 2 billion. Okay. Now, do you know how many people made YouTube? How many people? They were 3 friends. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, one of these, his name from the memory something like Javad or something. I think he was from like Sri Lanka or something like that. Now, his parents work, I think, in Germany. I'm not sure if he's a Muslim or not. Just name sounds like one of our names, you know. No idea, but it's relevant for this story. What's the point here? He had idea, one guy, and he had these 2 friends. Okay, one is I think Chinese, and another one I don't follow these things, so just come across in one of the magazines about this. So this guy had idea. You know what? It would be great if we could share videos on a website, and people can watch. So he uploaded first clip, him in the zoo. Okay, doing something. There was maybe monkey or something. I don't know. Now he shared his idea with his friends. He said, "This is a great. You know, we need this and that." So they 3 of them together started this YouTube. It was about pizza shop. Okay, and they started doing these sorts of things. But you know, it's a tough. You need money. You need support. You need encouragement. Maybe he's a clever guy, this guy, but without money and all of these things, you know, it doesn't work. It doesn't run on empty. You need money for service, money for this, you know, and then your parents tell you need to go to college, you need to do this. He was under the same pressure, this guy. Nobody to believe in him, nobody to support him. Was his idea great?
Yes.
Very commercially viable idea. You know what happened with him? He left it. There was nobody to stand by him and encourage him, explain, mentor him, and provide him these financial means so he can focus on this. Now he left this idea, YouTube. Soon after that, these 2 guys continued with the idea, and they sold it for $2 billion. Okay? Now, what did they do? They say, well, you did something. I mean, you did everything, but, you know, we sold it. So, as a thank you note, we give you 60 million.
60 million.
60 million. What is 60 million compared to 2 billion? Nothing. He got the idea. Now, the point here is that they were nice. Some other people might not give anything, you know. But now these guys, this is now much more than $2 billion company. Okay, so what are we saying here? How did this come to be? Through investment capital, through somebody giving money, somebody mixing idea. Now, unfortunate story is this guy dropped out because not having access to all of these things. He is the one guy who missed big time. Okay, now we said, in the Muslim world, what did we say? How many Muslims are youth? What did we say? We said between 15 and 29 years, we have 500 million Muslims. How many are like this guy? How many in this 500 million are like this guy? With the idea, with brilliance, intelligence, but nobody to trust, to believe, to support, to do anything for him. 500 millions. 500 millions youth. Now, if you support somebody like this, who you support? You support millions of others, because he will This is what they call definition of clever, is he provides disproportionate amount of value. You know, as a person, there is amount of value you should normally provide. But clever people provide so much value, it's beyond, it's disproportionate. So these people are what we call talented people. Now connect them with the money, and we have money, we have resources. Now we need to find these people, connect them, and employ. They will solve your crisis, they will create manufacturing, they will create service, all of these sectors. And so many cases like this, and so many youth like this. Now this will not work if we have a riba, because there is no incentive, there is nothing. Only work with real partnership, connecting idea and capital and so on. So this is what we're saying. Riba goes against this spirit of generosity, cooperation and partnership. And it leads to acquisition of property by wrongful means. And it can lead to harm to the needy. Okay, and as a Sharia, we said it wants to remove any possibility for injustice. Now, if the capital owner can earn money by just giving money and being able to demand profit regardless of what's happened to you, do you think capital owner will be more likely to invest in ventures like this? Or what is secured, put it in a bank?
Secure.
Why would I bother with these things?
Because there's no benefit for him.
I don't want to risk anything. So we become people then who are scared of any risk. Of course, any businessman knows, I invest 10 people like this, one maybe, but that one, huge, big time. We're not talking about huge amount. You see, when Facebook was sold, you know, it was valued at $100 billion. $100 billion recently in NASDAQ. Now the shares went a little bit down and speculations and all of these things, and you know, but we're talking about billions of dollars. All right, how much it took them to build it? What is it? It's a website connecting billions of people. All right. So this is the stuff we are talking about. This is that entrepreneurship. This is what we want to see. How else these people gonna integrate? We have to create stuff. We have to create part of economy that were not there before. Look at Apple, for example. If they didn't invent iPhone, iPad, Mac, I mean, 80% of the revenue that they drive, that they make, is from the products that were developed 5 years ago. And we still live in history, in the past. We have to be now. What you going to do now? What you're going to make now that will generate jobs, raise unemployment, have sense of confidence. Because you know what's happened with the people who win, who are able to win and do all of these things. They interestingly become very generous. You know, unlike those people who are not able to win, they don't have this opportunity. They become people who are blaming each other. You know, always somebody else's responsibility. They don't want to take ownership of any problem. They make excuses. So these people then, by taking on a risk, they develop certain resilience. So even if I fail in some ventures, I get up, take a new one. And this is what this sharing, risk sharing, teach you. And because now we are so risk averse, majority of the businesses fail because we didn't get used to managing these things and the risk and taking new entrepreneurship ventures and so on. So this is what we see, that we don't want to drive capital owners away from enterprise and real economic activities. We don't want to drive them just because there is easy option out, put it on interest. Because if we do that, who will contribute to the welfare of society? Through commerce, manufacturing, construction and so on. Who will do that? When these people graduate for school and search jobs and everything is full. You know, if we are just having the pie this big and everybody is already eating that pie and there is another hundreds of millions of people coming, what's going to happen? It's going to be a bloodbath. Bloodbath. You want to expand that, find new opportunities. You want to grow that. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. So anyway, and lastly, of course, if you do trade in riba and buy and sell money, you go against nature of money, which is supposed to be, as we said, medium of exchange. and so on. So you're going against a rational, entire rational for what money is supposed to be doing. All right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. One question.
Yep.
In like in a Islamic finance situation or something, or Islamic banking situation, would they limit a monopoly, like a certain company, running a certain market, maybe 95% of like the market sales and stuff is just with that one company, like a monopoly? Would it stop that, or is that an issue?
Well, you're talking about today, if you have Islamic bank, and how
Yeah.
would that go against this monopoly that you see? And
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
So of course you have to start something. You have to build something.
Yeah.
And at the end, the commercial reality of your product, it will come through. Look at the many chains. Yesterday we talked about Sheikh Rajihi building the bank, also building some other organic farming. When everybody told him this is not going to happen. You see, how can you have this organic farming and this in a kingdom? It's not going to work in our environment. He says, either you work with me on this or get out. And he made it possible. Look at the chains, supermarket chains. Now we have to build this capacity that we are able to manage our own affairs. We have to build the skills. The worst thing, you study medicine, yes? You know atrophy, what's atrophy?
Atrophy is
Loss of function.
Loss of function.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How do you come in this state? Your muscle basically lose the function of the muscle. Maybe you're not using that muscle, or I don't know how it comes, maybe in coma or for years. Anyway, the muscle lose its own function from not working, doing, or maybe something else. All right? But atrophy means you don't have any more ability to do something. Now, same can happen with your willpower, your decision making, your drive. If you don't exercise the skills, you can have atrophy or loss of skills. And this is definitely what we don't want to see. So inshallah, in the next episode, we are continuing this interesting discussion. I hope you will join me. Assalamu alaikum.